open up the textbook. If you click on the link and it goes to space and comes back and says you need to log in, anybody know what that means? What does it mean if it tells you you need to log in? I know, right? Oh, all right. Thank you. Thank you. Yes. So you need to disable those pop-up blockers. If you get a login screen, then it may not have stuck, which happens, all the time in technology. You think that you've done something and then it didn't finalize for some reason. So just go back through those steps, disable those pop-up blockers, and try it again. Okay. So back in the course, we have quite a number of files for chapter 2. These first few chapters, because you're learning everything kind of, there's a lot. And then they get easier as you go, probably when we start, I don't know, around probably chapter 4 or whatever, you're gonna be like, oh, this is old hat. I know how to do all this. So just keep that in mind. All right, so chapter 2, lesson 3, we need 2-4 for that one. My course is obviously resetting every time I come in here. And then lesson 4, you have quite a few files for lesson 4. So you'll need all of these. And then lastly, for chapter 5, you'll need 2-11. So what I've told y'all is click these, download them, then make a folder like on your desktop or in your documents or somewhere where it's easy to find, and put all of those working files inside of there so that as we go through this Engage textbook and it says open up blah, 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 you'll already have those ready to go. Any questions about downloading those files and putting them somewhere? Okay, well, let's get started then. Not there. So we're in Unit 1, Chapter 2. We did Lesson 1 and 2. Those were those tutorials that I sent last week. So we're going to start here in Lesson 3. And so Lesson 3 says, open PS 2-4 and save it as Marquee and Lasso selections. So when we're opening a file in Illustrator, I'm sorry, not Illustrator. I knew this was going to happen. When we're opening a file in Photoshop, as for right now, the way that we're going about this is we're going through Photoshop to open our files. So we go to File, Open, and then we find 2-4 and click Open. And so if you still have your guides and some wacky colors over here from your last assignment, what we need to do is go ahead and we're going to just reset our workspace really quick so that everything is in the right place. So first thing I'm going to do is go over to Window, Workspace, and then I'm going to do reset. I think we're still working in revealed workspace. So let's just do that. So reset the revealed workspace. If you don't like having all of these open here, you can use that little collapse icon. Looks like a fast forward button. Then I'm going to go under View, Guides, clear guides. And that makes those go away. And then I'm going to click on the little default icon for my colors, set those to black and white. Okay, so now it's fresh. So click the rectangular marquee tool on the toolbar and verify that feather is set to 0 and style is set to normal in the options panel. Remember, your options panel is this that runs directly across the top. So marquee tool here, and we're checking for feather to be at 0, and style drop down here is normal. Use the keyboard shortcut to access the zoom tool. So I have been experimenting with this. So look, let's see. So I'm trying to put notes in here, and I need to know from somebody if you can actually see these. Shortcut is Z. So when you see a little orange thing here, if you see this in your textbook, click on it and y'all let me know if this is working. So I've been trying to, as I come across these, put little notes in here. And supposedly they share with you, but you'll have to let me know. One thing I did forget to do is actually save this as the Marquee and Lasso selection. So let me go ahead and do that really quick. So I went to File, Save As, Marquee and Lasso selections. Save. Okay. So the zoom tool is here, or you can use the keyboard shortcut Z to access the zoom tool. And then it says, use the zoom tool to drag a box around the comic books at the top right corner of the white selection. So here, I'm just going to hold down my left little mouse key, and I'm going to draw, this is called a marquee selection. So draw this little box, and it's going to zoom me right into whatever I drew the box around. Now with the marquee tool, position the center crosshair, the upper left corner of the comic book, drag downward to the center crosshair on the lower right corner, and then release your mouse pointer. So with my rectangular marquee tool here, I'm going to go with the first one. My eyesight is terrible, so don't have high hopes. And I'm just going to draw a box around that first comic book cover and then release my mouse. And you can see it is now selected. So now I'm going to press and hold Shift, and I'm going to select the other comic book. So holding my Shift key, doing the exact same thing. I'm adding this to my selection. And so now I have both of them. Now press the letter V on your keypad for the move tool, or you can just simply press it here. And then we're going to drag the two comic books to the top shelf, but don't deselect. Okay. So zooming out, and I zoom out with my mouse wheel. Hopefully you've set yours up to do that too. If you haven't and you need to, let me know. So move right there. So when you move the selection, the current background color is used to fill the original location of the selection. In this example, the area is filled with black. Mine is not. I must have done something wrong. But I've graded a couple of these and theirs were black. Wonder what I did differently. And so the next step says to deselect. This is another place that I put a little note. So if you see that orange, Control D, there you go. There's your shortcuts. Oh, good. So you can see it? That's awesome. All right. This is a game changer. I can talk to you from inside the textbook. Wow. Yours aren't being dragged. Did you click on them? Did you click on them and drag them? I'm just kidding, David. I can take a look with you after class if you would like. So press the letter M on your keypad to access the marquee rectangle tool again, and use the keyboard shortcut with the zoom tool to zoom in on the pink frame beneath the WOW poster. Okay. So and scroll out and then zoom into here. I'm going to need to use my arrows a little bit to fit this into my little half screen. And then doing the same thing, I'm going to draw a little marquee selection around the frame. And so what we need is the frame, but we don't need the white interior. So we are going to use our Alt key or Option on Mac to deselect essentially the white inner frame. So think about when you think about your Alt and your Shift keys. Shift you generally use to add things. Alt you generally use to subtract things, and that works the same like in certain tools. For instance, the zoom tool. If you're zooming in and then you want to zoom out, you can hold your Alt key and it'll change it to zooming out. So think of Alt as the negative, I guess one would say. Okay, so I'm just going to hold my Alt key. See, there's a little minus now by my cursor. And I'm going to draw a little square or rectangle within that white space. Okay. So now I should just have this pink frame selected. Now we're going to access the Move tool, hold Shift, drag the frame straight up and position it over the poster so that the poster completely fills the frame, and then you'll deselect. So I'm scrolling out. It needs to go over this poster. Select my Move tool, hold my Shift key, and then just pop it up there. Then Control D will deselect. I'm wondering, is anybody else that's tried this not have the black left over? Or is that going to be just a me thing? So now we're going to select this whole thing and we're going to put it over on our shelf. So again, with that rectangular marquee tool, I'm just going to draw selection and move it over here. Now, one thing I want you to notice, I'm going to deselect, Control D, is that I am not very good at, staying in the lines and that sort of thing. And of course, that's going to carry over into this, which is fine. We're not looking for perfection. We're looking for how to use the tools. Now, that doesn't mean you can get sloppy and be, be bad. Don't do that. But just understand that if you don't get a perfect outline, it's fine. All right. Okay. So now it says save your work. So I'll just go to File, Save. And now we're going to use the elliptical marquee tool and transform a selection marquee. So click the elliptical marquee tool on the toolbar, verify the feather is 0 and the style is set to normal. So underneath my rectangular marquee, I find my elliptical marquee Feather is 0. Style is normal. And then we are going to zoom in on the dartboard here. Okay, and then click and drag the elliptical marquee and try to select the dartboard. Chances are you won't be able to select it accurately. For selecting circular objects, start at the center is the best method. So press and hold Shift plus Option or Shift plus Alt to position the crosshairs over the center of the dartboard, then drag out the center that is approximately 75% of the dartboard size. So I'm going to select my marquee tool here. I'm going to go to the center and I'm going to hold down Shift and Alt. Now the combination of these keys do two things. Shift maintains aspect ratio, which means if you are trying to select or draw a square or a circle, it doesn't end up being a rectangular or an oval. While the Alt key in this instance is going to allow you to draw that shape from the center of the object instead of from the side over. So holding those two down and just pulling about there. Maybe a little bit smaller. Okay. So now it says to click select on the menu bar and click transform selections. So if you've selected something like I have and it's, it needs a little, let's say, nudge, there's a couple of things you can do. You can use your arrow keys. That's what I'm doing right now on your keyboard and move the selection that way. Or you go to select, transform selection, and it gives you this little bounding box here where I can now, I'm going to hold shift and I can stretch that box. If I was looking for perfection, I am never, ever holding myself to that standard. Neither should you. There you go. It's close. Okay. And I love this after they tell you all the ways to be perfect. Don't try to be perfect. Okay. When the selection is where you want it, press return or enter on your keyboard. Zoom out and move the dartboard to this position. So we need our move tool. We're just going to move it. I did not move it. I moved its little point. My enter must not have gone through. Let's do that again. Back. There we go. Hit enter super hard. Just kidding. So I moved my selection, but not what I selected. So if this happens to you, we'll just go to edit, undo, edit, undo, edit, undo, all the way back to the start. And we'll try again. Okay. So again, with that, Shift, Alt, make my selection here. Y'all, this is just getting wonkier and wonkier, right? Hold on. Release my mouse key, then release my keyboard keys. Like I said, you can do the select, transform selection, move that around as needed. When you are finished with that, do selection, press, drag, yep, did all that. Hit enter to execute the transformation, right? Yes. And then zoom out to move. So move. There we go. Now it worked. Still left some of it. That's okay. All right, so then Control D to deselect. And then they have a whole little paragraph here about how we don't know how we don't know how to make it look realistic yet. And that's fine. They're just telling us that if we were going to make it realistic, we would be chopping off the bottoms of things. But we're not there yet, and that's fine. I don't know why it tells us that. Okay, so moving on, let's go to the teddy bear. Now, this is where we're going to get into the selection tools that I personally hate, but maybe you'll have more patience with them. Uh, so watch closely, David. I would actually be watching and not trying to do all of this stuff at the same time while you're starting out. And then you can use this recording as like a tutorial. You can speed it up and pause it and skip around in it as needed. Okay. So in this part, they are having us select the lasso tool. Make sure that the feather is 0 and the anti-alias is checked. And then they say zoom in the teddy bear and then try to use the lasso tool. Yeah. See, this is why I love these, because I'm so good at them. And then try to use the lasso tool and then identify that you are not successful. It's not a good tool to use for that. Seriously, this is what the steps say. Read them for yourself. And so it's like, that's a terrible tool. Why did you select that? You need to deselect. So Control D, deselect, and then it says, let's try the magnetic lasso tool. So hold down underneath the lasso tool, you'll find the magnetic lasso tool. We'll make sure that, let's see. The settings are 0 feather, anti-alias is checked, width is 10, contrast is 10%, and frequency is 57. Okay, we're good to go right there. So make sure you check those. Zoom in to the whole head. I'm gonna zoom here. This is where I'm gonna start. I'll tell you why later. Okay. So position the magnetic lasso tool and drag along to select the ears and the top of the head. And so what they suggest is that we select only part of the items at a time and then use shift. Remember, shift will allow you to add, and then use shift to then use the magnetic lasso tool on the other parts. Watch how unsuccessful I am with this. So one thing I will say when you are using the magnetic lasso tool is that what it's doing is looking for pixel differentiation. Okay. So if I start it here, it's going to be saying, okay, what part of this is brown and what part of this is white? And depending on how closely you follow, it's going to identify that, okay, I'm selecting these brown parts. So you want to kind of stay on the outside, I guess, the outer edge as you're doing this. So let's just do it, okay? We're going to click once here, and then we are going to slowly kind of drag along the edge. Like I said, more so on the outside of the edge. And it does operate somewhat like a magnet would. And I have no patience for tools like this. Maybe you'll feel differently. I remember using this tool when I was in college and thinking, why would anybody do this? When you get to the point where you want to close, you'll just click on that point. And so now I have the top of the head selected. So now starting in the interior of your selection, hold Shift to add more. Okay, so see, I have the little add sign now. So I just have to go now around. Oh, see, I got a big white spot. Again, don't get sloppy, but don't start all over if you do something like I just did and you get like one little spot that's not supposed to be there. All right, the book suggests that you do this in 6 parts. I do not have, obviously, the patience for that. Double click when you get to the end. And for the most part, it's selected. Okay, so now the next step is they want us to remove the white triangle. Press and hold Alt or Option and remove the white triangle. Okay, let's try it on my little mess up here. So holding Alt. No, I did not. I think I have to like select the whole thing. Come on. You can do it. Still. I don't care though. I'm frustrated at this point. I'm just going inside. Let's go Alt here. Then I'm going to click and drag along the triangle. Sometimes I can't seem to get it to go into corners. That's okay. Okay. That is good enough for me. So now I'm going to switch back to my Move tool. And see, when I hover over it, David, this is the part I want you to notice. When I hover over it with my Move tool and I have that little scissor symbol there, that means that it's good to move. And so I'm just going to plop it up on that shelf right there. So now use the magnetic lasso tool to select the dart and move it into the position shown. All right, so Control D to deselect. Back over to this dart, magnetic lasso tool. We'll start it here. Just click once, remember, and then try to follow along. You're not holding down your mouse key for this, even though it's tempting and you might want to. Did I mention this takes practice? Did I say that? And then when I get to the end, just going to click. And now back to my Move tool. Look for the little scissors and move it up here. And then Control D to deselect. Okay, last one. And this one, this selection tool, I actually have some respect for. Sorry, y'all. I didn't mean to wake up a hater today. I just did. Okay, but this, yeah, so this polygonal selection tool, this actually allows you to select in like straight lines, which, as most of you know, I'm an illustrator person, so straight lines are kind of my jam. All right, so blue block, we're going to, under the magnetic selection tool, we're going to find the polygonal lasso tool here. Then make sure that feather is 0, anti-alias is checked. Press the caps lock key on your keyboard. All right. And it says when the caps lock key is activated, the cursor switches to a crosshair, which is more precise. Click the crosshair one time on the left corner of the O block. Go there. Then move the mouse pointer down, click at the bottom. So I wonder if you hold shift, if it'll, okay. So it does work. If you hold shift with this tool, it'll actually allow you to make a perfect vertical or horizontal line. If perfection is what you're looking for. Now, I am using my mouse wheel as my zoom at this point. I'm not trying to mess with these keyboard keys. I am good. Nope, see? Because that's what happens. If this happens, just do Control Z, Control Z. Or don't. Hang on. Sometimes you just got to hit escape and start over. Okay, back to this. So we're just trying to get these points. Not gonna get silly trying to use the controls anymore. I'm just, when I need to go to the corner, I'm just pushing it there and it's moving it for me. So maybe it just takes a little patience. You go around the whole perimeter of this thing. All right. And then back to the start. Oh, thank goodness. And I spoke nicely of you as well. That tool betrayed me. Okay, so back to our move tool. Hover over until you see the little scissors, and then pull off that right there. And so your finished picture should look like this. Control D. And now it says save your work and close document. So file, save, and then you will submit Marquee and Lasso selections. Moving on.